years of strength, will, and desire, building a future for me and you. Let's get inspired and shine a spotlight on the CUSW. Hello, and welcome to the CUSW Spotlight Podcast, brought to you by the Canadian Union of Skilled Workers, established in 1999. CUSW has been empowering its members and shaping the future of skilled trades for over 25 years. In this podcast, we shine a spotlight on the people, stories, and values that make CUSW a strong and dynamic community. It's an exciting time to be part of this union, and we're here to celebrate the journey, achievements, and dedication of skilled workers. So turn up the volume and let's get started. Here's your host for the CUSW Spotlight Podcast, Mr. Dan Plexman.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this episode of the CUSW Spotlight Podcast. Today, we're going to be interviewing one of our fellow CUSW members that many of you may not know by face or by name, but I guarantee you've definitely benefited from her work. We are very excited to have Carrie 𝗧𝗂𝗏𝗏. If you look at our guest's past, it's almost as if she's developed and created the perfect recipe for our CUSW needs in regards to training and education. Her past is with sociology, English, and then she added adult education. These are the three things that CUSW really needed, especially 10 years ago, 11 years ago when she joined the CUSW team. And she hasn't looked back since. She's been going strong with us. We're very lucky to have her and all of her education and her experience helping us with our needs. Carrie, you picked up the union consulting project about 10 years ago with CUSW. And when I look at this, it seems like you started off your own CUSW apprenticeship working along CUSW members. So it's kind of neat how this just kind of worked out for you. And it's very, very beneficial for all of us. This is probably the longest introduction I've ever had on the show, but it's hard to explain Carrie and what she does. And thank you for joining us on the show today, Carrie. How are you?
Thanks so much, Dan. I'm great, and I'm really happy to be here.
Perfect. In many ways, like I said, your association with CUSW almost is like an apprenticeship for you, learning about the union ways and the construction industry. Can you kind of give us a little bit of background on how you joined the CUSW and maybe a little bit about your history even before that?
You bet. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It was a bit of an apprenticeship, and I'll kind of get to how an instructional designer is always in the apprenticeship mode when they start new projects. So I'll just go back a little bit. I grew up in Ottawa. I went to Carleton University, not really knowing what I wanted to do. Picking a career path when you're 17 is not always easy and doesn't always happen for people. All of my high school aptitude results pointed me into teacher, police officer, and lawyer. Teacher sounded the closest to me, so I sort of headed down that path. But after I graduated university and before I started teachers college, just something wasn't ringing true to me. And honestly, it was the kids part. I love kids. I have kids, but working with them every day just wasn't really hitting the mark for me. So I worked in various roles over the years, just trying to sort of find the thing that would resonate with me. And it was actually in a sales training program. And just in the first hour sitting in that room, the aha went on. And I said, that's what I want to do. So I did want to teach. I just didn't want to teach kids. I wanted to teach adults how to do their jobs. So from there, I just researched into how one actually goes about doing that. And it was the diploma program in adult education from St. FX in Nova Scotia. So I took that and I loved every minute of it. It was probably the first time in my life that I earned almost straight A's across the board. School was not really my friend. And I just knew I'd found the right fit for me. And I cut my teeth as a trainer in a large call center in Brantford. And I will say that was such an awakening. Call center agents will certainly let you know if what you are training to them will or will not work when they take incoming calls. Things happen super fast. You're responding to new call types, and it was sort of trial by fire. It was hectic, but it was super energizing. And that was my first role in training. And I've honestly never looked back from that. So over the years, I've worked in various areas in government, private sector, non-for-profit. And it was when I was working with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, helping inspectors do their jobs. I got a call saying, hey, could you help us implement a learning management system for this client that I have? And I'm like, sure. We just had done that for the CFIA. So I took a little side job helping with that. And that's how I first came to meet CUSW. So you had just been getting started bringing e-learning on board, given the fact of how members work. They're remotely, sort of all over the place, all over Ontario. They're not sitting at a computer necessarily, but they also can't always come to classrooms. So e-learning was sort of brought on board as, let's at least give a place for someone to go to access some training wherever they might be. So I just was in the background building e-learning courses, helping the LMS grow. And that was sort of my first introduction to CUSW. And like you said, Dan, have not looked back. And that was back in 2015, left the government, came on board full time. And then when the owner of the company that I was working with retired, I sort of was at a crossroads and didn't really know what to do at that point. So I had a couple of options. And one of them was, I guess I could start my own company and continue servicing the clients that we had, including CUSW. And I went that way just because what would these clients do if we didn't have somebody to help them with their learning? There was so much information that I had and was working on. And honestly, I just really, really loved the work that I have been doing with CUSW along the way. So I sort of became an accidental business owner just so I could keep working with you guys. And that's been it.
That's funny you say accidental business owner. My wife 𝗧𝗂𝗃, her art business names is Artist by Accident. And
Oh, that's
just
right.
just like myself, after being in my life accident and workplace incident, I've had to kind of reshape myself through an accident by accident. And it's funny how life just kind of throws these things at you, and you got to make lemonade with lemons sometimes.
I
And
agree.
yeah, and I think you and I actually met in 2015 when I was doing one of my very first presentations for CUSW. I've already been a semi-professional speaker for a few years at that point, and then I started working really tightly with the union again. And I've taken a few of your training courses. I've been a pupil of yours, and I found it really refreshing earlier in the segment when you're talking about you recognized that you love kids, but it just wasn't jiving with you to teach them. That kind of resonates very well with me in relation to you and our relationship when I have taken some of your courses, because you've made it very clear to recognize your strengths and to recognize your weaknesses. And you kind of got to look at yourself with a fine tooth comb kind of thing and realize, okay, I'm good at this. I'm not so good at that. How do I get around the things that I'm not so good at? And how do I build on these things so I can be better? And I've learned lots from you in that regard. And it's pretty cool that you talked about this in the very beginning in regards to yourself. So I kind of looking at you like, yeah, she's a teacher, she's a trainer, but she's also a learner.
Absolutely. Lifelong learning is something that we talk about a lot within CUSW and in the learning community in general. And that's what I really find resonates with me about the commitment to learning that CUSW has. That really jives with me because you view training as not just an event, a butt in seats that people check a box off and say, yep, we train people. It's more of the, what does someone get at the end of this? What will they be able to know or feel or do at the end that's actually going to help them, not just in their job, but in life, in their personal life, just, their own personal growth as a person. That's sort of what lifelong learning is about. You learn something new. You can't go back to the time it was before you learned that. And now it helps you make some decisions about where you want to go, what else you want to learn.
Exactly. And I think I've noticed kind of like a pattern on how you teach and how you've created the learning process for some of our training initiatives in the courses that I've taken from you. What I have found really helpful is at the beginning of the course, before we start the course, we have a specific agenda. You have a specific initiative, and you basically say, this is what you're going to learn today, and this is what we want you to take home. And pay attention because we're going to show you how to do it. People don't really understand how complicated it is to create this simplicity. And that's where you come into play. You're not like Carrie Walker-Boyd, everybody. She's just not your typical office worker at the CUSW office, directing people on where to go and dealing with union phone calls and that sort of stuff. She's kind of like a unicorn within our organization here. She does some really cool stuff. And this approach to training is just one of those small things that she does.
You bet. And thanks for that. We consider ourselves partners. We really enjoy helping you reach your goals. So, having worked with CUSW for many years, we develop an understanding of your culture, the values, the members, so the challenges that members have, where they're moving, where the organization is growing as a whole, and where they're pointed. And, I've been involved in events beyond training delivery. So just to sit in on meetings, listen to what people are talking about, things that concern them. I'm hearing people strategize about where they want to go. And that just gives us so much insight into where the organization is going. And as both a partner and a member, I'm invested in the success of CUSW and the partnership and sort of designing courses. And it's not just courses even, it's learning events. It's things that just say, there's a problem, we're here, we have to get there. And we don't really know how to do that. And so you're right, Dan, when you say that a lot goes on behind the scenes to make training happen. It's not just an event, there's hours and hours that goes into figuring out from members, from operational leads, from people in the union that have a stake in it to say, what are we trying to achieve here? What do we want to change from today and make it different tomorrow? What do people need to learn? What do they need to know? What do they need to do? And then we pull content, we design something that looks like this is going to get them the outcome. And sometimes the outcome is not just knowledge, it's you want them to feel something different. And that is a challenge, but very cool to design for, because it's not just, like I said, a butt and a seat. It becomes, how do we follow up with people afterwards? How do we make sure that they actually learned what we told them that they would learn? And did they value that training? So there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, and not just through us, through everybody who participates in providing content and insight and answering questions and surveys. All of that content is used. It's when we hear from the members, it would be great if we had something to help us learn this. That's what we take into account. And then we follow up and find out, what else do you need to know? What exists already? What can we build on? What's not quite working? What scenarios would be helpful to hear to really build that out? And then we put that time, we work with staff to sort of pull things all together. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes before you actually walk in that classroom or take that e-learning course. And we also do that right up front so that people have a chance to say, okay, I see what this class is going to be all about. Here's something else I also want to get out of it, hopefully. We just always want to make sure to hit that mark, because the worst thing, oh my gosh, as a trainer, as an educator, is to have people sit in your session or leave at the end of it not getting what they wanted to get from it. That is just at the core, like at the pit of your stomach, you're like, that feels the worst. I did it one time when I had to step in and train somebody something, and it was the wrong audience, it was the wrong material, and it was just probably the worst day in my professional career, just knowing that people wasted a day not getting what they were supposed to get, and a little vow to myself that I would never let that happen again.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those sleepless nights of regret later on. It's like, oh, why did I say that? Or why didn't I say that? And I like one thing you're talking about with information. We can't convey information to people unless we're taking in information. And all of these training courses that you do, they actually piggyback on the training course you just did before. And the point I'm trying to make here is, for the membership, for anybody who takes these courses, there's always a survey. There's always a question period at the end of these courses that gives the trainers more information on how to create the next training event so it's better for you, the members, for us. This is why these surveys, these information sharing back and forth between the student and the teacher are so important.
Absolutely. You're totally right. It does something. And I know people spend a lot of time answering surveys that don't mean things, or there's too many, they don't feel it goes anywhere. And we work really hard to show back that we're designing things this way because we pulled in information from this survey, or we interviewed some people and here's what they said, and pull it all together to show telling ain't training. We're not just going to sit down and tell somebody, some content. It's just that this was identified as a need, and we got this information from all of these sources, from these members, from staff. And then that's what goes into building the training. And exactly to your point, we don't want to waste anybody's time. So we'll build something on top of another that helps enhance what they already know, not start over from scratch. So we want to make sure that we're using people's time and budget wisely to give just what you need at the time that you need it.
Yeah, exactly. Like filling out these surveys, it's a simple way for the member to participate and contribute into the union. So that's just one point. Where do we go from here? Like I said earlier, I know you're a learner. I can tell. And you can't be a teacher without being a learner. Let's talk a little bit about your previous experience before CUSW and then getting thrown into the union mix and the construction industry. What are the big significant changes or differences between your previous work experience and the people and the mindset, the mentality, compared to the CUSW union and trade industry in general?
That's a great question. So I'll start with saying that what's very interesting about being in a learning and development role is you're never the subject matter expert. You're never the one who becomes an expert in a certain area, except for the process of training and development in general. So anytime you start a new job in a new industry, everything is always new, and you always sort of feel like the low man on the totem pole. You're the one who knows the absolute least about what's going on around you. And so through that, people who work in training and development can work in a variety of areas and industry, just because of what we do is common across all industry. Everyone needs training. So depending on where you decide to work and in what industry, you learn a lot from the ground up. I did do a lot of work for government, for example. I worked for the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and that's more of a boots on the ground agency than a lot of government departments. So we were training for inspectors who were out in farmers' fields and abattoirs doing their work. And so that training had to resonate with them, but we had no idea what they go through in their day. So it's always, and you said it earlier, Dan, an apprenticeship to learn what's the job and the day-to-day reality of the people that we need to provide training to. But even still, in a government environment, you're training to people who can spend a majority of their day at a computer. They can just walk from the one office to a training class and back to their office again. It was all very easy to put together just because everyone's day-to-day reality looked very similar to your own. When I started working with CUSW, really ramping up was to find out who the members are. What's their day-to-day reality? What are they concerned about? What do they need to learn? And we build what we call a learner profile or a learner identity. And we build out a few different people that work for the union and give them just little fake names to sort of have us focus in on who these people are, and just talking about educational past, how they got to the job that they're in today, how they spend their days, how they spend their free time, and what their average work month may look like. And it built such a profile that was so typically foreign to me. Again, sitting at a desk creating training is very different than the work and the everyday reality that CUSW members have. So it's, working away from home for long extended periods at a time. And the work reality is, the health and safety aspect of things, and making sure that you come back from work safely so that you can return to your families at the end of the day. That's what it's all about. And I've never been working in an environment where that was such a strong focus at the forefront. So that always just resonates really huge with us when we're developing training, is just knowing who our audience is. I'll give an example of the mentorship program that we developed. It started off to help workplace representatives learn their role, so workplace stewards and joint health and safety committee members. And that was a huge learning curve for us. But that's where these surveys came in really handy, was just learning from the workplace representatives. What do you need to learn? What are your top challenges? What keeps you up at night? What struggles do you have in performing the job? And so much information came back. I forget if it was like 14 or 17 pages of responses and content came back that was just, we had everything we needed right there. But it really helped shape our initial idea of what a course might have looked like, with here's your job role and here are the policies you have to abide by or what have you, into actually you spend a lot of your day just helping people solve problems. Every call, every interaction could be a potential new problem that you haven't seen before. You have to figure out how to overcome. So a big part of the training became, let's just do some practice problem solving. Let's throw some scenarios in there that are real workplace situations, and let's work as a group to help move through a problem solving process to solve it. And the light bulbs that were going off in the room while training that were just amazing, because we weren't training content specifically. It was taking people through a process that they have to do in their job every day. To me, that was just really rewarding when you see something resonate like that. And that's been such a cool experience.
Yeah, it's very eye-opening, where you kind of go from some of the people like deer in the headlights look to all of a sudden, oh, I'm understanding what's going on here now. It's pretty impressive how the learning curve happens.
Absolutely. Yep. And we love those aha moments. We love when we see the light bulbs go out. Or not go out, go on. because, because those are the moments that are just, okay, we hit the mark. And that's what it's about. As an instructional designer and someone in training and development, you're there as a service provider. That's what you are. You're helping other people do their important work. And so you recognize your role in doing that. We're here to service you, and we get our marching orders from you. So the more information we get from members and stakeholders, the better we can make the training interactions.
Exactly. And I do have to make one point with your comment about the lights went out. You totally made the blooper reel.
Yes. Love it.
Yeah, that's what we're going for. That's what we're going for.
Love it.
It's pretty fun. But getting back to a little more serious nature, we're talking about training. And obviously, when you're a trainer, you're in front of the class. You are kind of the spotlight of the show. You're in front of everybody. You are leading people. And like, let's say we take our chairperson of the union. He's also leading in a similar fashion. He's at the head of the ship, and everybody's kind of looking at him. When you're on a training initiative and teaching at a course, you're in the same position, but at the same time, it's more of like a lateral leadership. You're supporting us. You're working on alongside us, hand in hand, arm in arm, but you're leading us. It's a very unique role that you have, because you're not really like in front of the ship. Come on, fellows, let's go this way. But you're beside us, pushing us. Most of us don't really understand the power that you have and how your initiatives and your agendas that you provide for us help us out so much. Do you look at yourself like that as you're a partner, like a parallel partner with CUSW?
Absolutely. And anybody in our field, when they're doing their job the right way, feels the same. As we don't come into this work to, we're not keynote speakers. We don't have vast expertise that we get on a stage and tell you all about. What we're training is your content. It's the stuff that has to do with being a CUSW member, job ready training, leadership training, how to have difficult conversations, how to run a committee meeting efficiently and effectively. It's all of your content are based on your needs, and we just package it in ways that is digestible, that is able to be consumed, learned, and it leads to real change. And that's what people want. People want to grow. I mean, the people who are in leadership roles in CUSW, in any leadership roles, especially on committees, being part of unit executive, they're all doing this by contributing their time aside from their day job. They're doing this to contribute, to help the union grow and be successful, but they're doing it with their own time. And so you want to make sure that every minute they spend in training is helpful, not just to help them do their job, perform their role, but also it's fulfilling. That's a huge thing that we have to be aware of too, is that you've got some criteria to meet, you've got some things to do. And if we are asking you to spend time on evenings and weekends participating on a committee, for example. We have to help you do that job effectively, efficiently. We have to make sure that the time that we're spending with you is productive, that it's worthy of the time that you spend, and it gives members satisfaction that they're learning and they're doing and they're making a difference.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the CUSW perspective. We're always learning, we're always contributing in allowing this learning process to develop and to grow. I'm thinking about my comment about calling you like a unicorn within CUSW. And it's totally true because people have no idea the vast accomplishments and contribution you put to our union. Very similar to my wife, 𝗪𝗫cie, the Chris Stevens of our group. You as well. You're not on the tools. You're not a tradeswoman, but you are a CUSW member. When you decided to accept the membership, what has that meant to you, and how has that changed things for you within your CUSW relationship and maybe just your perspective on life and the work?
That's a great question, Dan, because again, as an instructional designer, trainer, we'll go into many different client groups and organizations and do the work and leave. And there's part of it that's not as fulfilling when you're just calling a one-off to come in and help a team do something or deliver a training program. You never get to see those people down the road and say, did that land? Did it work? How are you doing better now than you did before? Did the course give you everything it should have? What I love about being a CUSW member is that I really feel like part of the extended family. It's always, like I said, it's always a little hard. You always feel like a little bit of an imposter when you're in training. We don't really know. We're not one of you holding the tools and going to work every day. But what I love about being a member and partnering in that way is that there is a tremendous sense of inclusion. We get included on everything. We get all the emails. We are, invited to meetings or to listen in on things. We get information shared with us that we're entrusted with to help, all towards building courses and education programs that help the members. Being a service provider is one thing. Anybody can do that for any company for a short amount of time, a long amount of time. But I really feel like I was brought into the fold, invited in, allowed to the honor of being a member and to really feel like part of the team and a true partner. And that's where a lot of the magic happens, I think, because, you're investing in me, I'm investing in you. And I really do love and enjoy the time that I get to spend because I just feel like we're marching toward the same goal. And when I really, really closely understand that goal, it just helps things work better.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what you said about being a member of the team, you're not just another member of the team. You play so many different roles, like your team captain, your coach sometimes, you're the all-star player. Sometimes you're sitting on the bench cheering for us who are on the field at that time. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
you engulf everything when it comes to CUSW, of all of our training and all of our initiatives that we do. And one key thing that I noticed in your responses in the last little segment here, you keep on referring to yourself as we. We get invited for this. We get included in this. We get the emails for all of this. Let's talk about who the other person in the we of this equation is. I believe you're probably talking about Janice Francisco.
Yes, I am. So interesting. When I first started TouchPoints Learning back in 2021, I knew that my strength, and this goes back to what I had said way earlier, knowing your strengths and your weaknesses is important. So I knew my strength was in training development. But like I said, I was an accidental entrepreneur, business owner. That was part of recognizing I needed some support along the way if I was going to do that. And one of the big gaps I found was that what goes hand in hand with training is a lot of times organizational development, strategic planning, that type of thing, because training and learning is all about change. And usually you're learning something new because a change is happening. Or when you do learn something new, a change will happen. So as the organization grows, there's a lot of things that happen that people tend to think is training. Sometimes it's that the organization changes. Other things need to happen to support training and learning and growth. So I called up Janice, who I'd worked with years ago, and her area of focus, while also being in training development, She's in organizational development. She helps organizations change, whether that's through structure, through strategic planning, and that's her strength. And I felt that the two go really hand in hand when it comes to providing everything that an organization needs, especially with CUSW, with the leaps and bounds and changes that you're making to help you be well situated to do that. There's a huge proponent of that part of it. So yeah, so I brought on Janice. We make a good team, and I think that kind of well rounds out what we provide for CUSW.
Yeah, for sure. I've worked hand in hand with both you and Janice for quite a few years, and you guys are like the perfect match where whatever strength you have and she might be a little bit missing on, it transverses the same way back and forth. And knowing Janice and her personality and watching how she works, I've said it a few times at some of our meetings where if Janice was on the tools, she'd be the push. And for those of you who aren't in the trades, being the push is the person on the crew who's like, okay, guys, we got to get this done. He's usually like the lead hand saying, okay, foreman, you're missing this. Let's figure this out. Guys, get off your butts, get to work. And it's just so satisfying to be in a boardroom and having an event with both you and her at the helm and leading us, because everything just goes so smoothly with you two involved.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. I think there's a lot of things behind the scenes that aren't so smooth when we try to get to where we're going. But the great thing is that because we're different and because we each have the strengths that we bring to the table, you need them both. If you have two people exactly the same delivering the same thing, it doesn't give you that depth and breadth of what you need. And you're absolutely right. She's a pusher. She sees what needs to get done. Even from a role standpoint, you need to pick up your end and get that ready. Hey, you over here. You're not doing anything. Get over here and help this thing move. That's exactly what she does with organizational development. That's exactly what it's all about. It's getting people well situated to fulfill roles that help the organization move forward.
Yeah, and that's what CUSW and anything good is all about. It's about forming relationships. If you're going to be successful at anything, you got to form relationships with people you trust, with people you know have the know-how, and then you bring them in. It's just beautiful how this works and how CUSW fosters this attitude. We're not like, no, we don't know this person. It's like, no, you know this person? Great. We trust you to make that decision for us. It's pretty cool.
It is amazing. And I know that the organization is working on is building their own learning organization inside. And that's been such an exciting time helping that grow within the union, and just involving members, building staff and building leads to help support training internally. It just shows the dedication that CUSW has towards lifelong learning and towards bringing members into new roles and helping move the union forward that way, and building growth and development behind members who just may show interest or an aptitude in jumping into a learning role. It's just really exciting to see, because there's such hidden talent. Is one thing I've learned through my work with you guys is a lot of people have a story of a job they did beforehand, something they do on the side, a passion, a hobby, photography, beekeeping, like I've heard it all. But you've got some fantastic trainers on board, and just pulling on that talent to use in-house people to do your own work is just, it's amazing. It's a really exciting time to be in learning and development for CUSW.
Yeah, and based on this conversation about Janice, I could actually see us bringing her on the show if she'd be willing. So I can see that happening
sure she
later
would.
on. But yeah, exactly. She's always ready to put up her hand and say, yeah, I'll try, just like we all are.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's hard to believe we've been talking for 35 minutes. Kind of feels like about 5. As far as your overall experience with CUSW, it's obvious you've done lots of contributing and participating within our union. Have there been any aha moments or some profound experiences that you've had with CUSW, and not in particular with the training, more in lines with the social aspect of CUSW and maybe some of the fun events that we've done?
Well, there's so many that stand out, but one example that I'll use is that we attended and helped out during the Tradeswomen Gala last year. And it was just an amazing event that was put together by a group of the dedicated tradeswomen committee that came together. And it was just to see them in action behind the scenes, arranging for the speakers and the donations and the gifts and the tables and just booking all of that. But then the day of, I mean, and you're talking about people working with the tools, the day of the setup, there was people coming in with their cartons and cases of all of their materials. They were, nailing things to the wall. They had their duct tape and putting up signage, and they went from an empty room to a beautifully staged room within an hour or two. Every hand was on deck to get it done, and the event was just pulled off so beautifully. So well organized, and just the speakers, the subject matter they spoke about, and just the emotion in the room that was happening at that time was just such a testament to them pulling this all together, and just with meaning, not just an event, but something that was there for a specific purpose. And it all came together so beautifully, and we were so honored to be a part of it.
I love the fact that with the Tradeswoman Gala, they go from steel toe boots to open shoe high heels or something like that. I don't know what women wear, but it's pretty neat.
And that's actually really funny that you brought that up, because that is exactly what happened. Just, regular clothes, putting everything together. And then one by one, they just went off to the washroom attached to the event room, and they just changed their clothes, went in with their scrubby, I'm here to work clothes, and came on out with, sequins, heels, and hair done. It was amazing. Yeah.
Decked out, that's for sure. It's so cool. It's really cool. Yeah. Okay. As I said earlier, our conversation has just been going so smoothly, I lost track of the time. As usual, at the end of every show, I always ask the guest if there's anything they'd like to share with the general membership and the audience at home. And it doesn't have to be in regards to CUSW. It doesn't have to be in regards to work or anything. What are Carrie's final words of thought for today?
I think what resounds for me in just our conversation, Dan, and just hearing all the podcasts that have happened in the past, there's a huge focus on lifelong learning. And I just want people to know that it's not just something that happens in a classroom. It's something that happens inside you, the moments that happen all around you where you're learning and taking information. It's honestly one of the few investments that keeps paying dividends throughout your life. So I would say staying curious, engaged, and growing is something that is a great way to think about what you do in life. And then more importantly, with CUSW, you, the members, have created amazing roles and opportunities for each other to grow. They're here for the asking. And honestly, the growth that I've seen in people moving into different roles, I would think that your next step could be a step that opens a door that you never, ever expected to happen. So I would just say always keep your eye on that and look for opportunities to continue to grow and develop as a person and within CUSW.
Very wise words from one of our accredited parallel partners, Carrie Walker. She really is a lateral leader within our union, within our organization, and she has extreme value. And thanks so much for your participation and the contribution to the show here today, Carrie, and our union in general. We really appreciate all your time and effort. Thank you so much.
You bet. It's been such a pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Dan.
Thank you. If you want to get in touch with Carrie, you want to get in touch with myself, please refer to the page at the end of the show, and you can find our contact information there. If you have any thoughts, any suggestions about the show, maybe you want to be a guest, we want to hear from you. Thanks, everybody. And until next episode, keep that CUSW spotlight shining. Take care. Thanks again, Carrie.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you for shining bright in the CUSW spotlight. Let's get inspired and shine a spotlight